Welcome to the Mayor of Money podcast series. I'm Rick Goldring. Many of you knew me as the mayor of Burlington between 2010 and 2018. Well, prior to serving as mayor, I had the opportunity to serve successful business owners in the areas of financial estate planning and wealth and risk management for many decades prior to serving as mayor. And then after serving as mayor, my career continued in the financial services sector with the establishment of Goldring Financial Leadership, Inc. Now, the areas of interest or the areas of focus for the podcast series are three. Number one, financial estate planning. You're going to hear from experts in the field, including who we have with us today, in the areas of insurance, in the areas of investments, in the areas of tax accounting and lawyers, et cetera. You're going to hear from many people in that area. I'm also going to feature great discussion and insightful discussion with some very successful entrepreneurs, what has made them successful for their careers. And finally, we're going to talk about real estate and development, recognizing there's a huge shortage of homes and housing units in Southern Ontario. Prices have soared, that wealth there's so much wealth that we have in our housing units now that was never planned to be that way, but it's certainly been good for homeowners and challenging for people who aren't homeowners. But you're going to hear from a number of different people in those particular areas. Now, my guest today is Melanie McCallum of Canada Protection Plan, which is a Forester's financial company. And we're going to be talking about insuring the hard to insure. And life insurance is not something that you simply can buy. Life insurance is something that you need to apply for. And money alone cannot buy insurance. You typically need to be healthy, have a need, and have a good lifestyle. So when people apply for life insurance, you can be approved as applied for. You can be approved with an extra rating where you have to pay more because of a particular situation or health situation. You could be postponed where they say, we'll look at you again in a year, or you can be declined outright. And this is where Melanie comes in, Melanie McCallum, and the Canada Protection Plan, which is a Forester's financial company. This is where they come in. So Melanie, welcome to the podcast. We're talking about insuring the hard to insure. We know with your particular company that someone can actually qualify for up to $50,000 guaranteed. And can you explain how that works?
Sure. Thank you very much for having me on your podcast today, Rick. So basically with Canada Protection Plan, what we do is we cover the hard to insure. So if you have cancer, diabetes, if you've had any heart conditions, and you think that you are uninsurable, please know that with CPP, a Forester's financial company, you can certainly still get coverage. We have a questionnaire, which is our application. And basically our application is just a few pages and they're questions about, have you ever had this? Have you ever had that? So lots of times we'll meet individuals and they'll say, I'm hard to insure. I can't get life insurance. Nobody will cover me. And I'm here to let you know, rest assured, you can certainly get coverage through us. Now, whether that coverage falls under our guaranteed acceptance plan, or you go all the way through to our full coverage from day one for up to $750,000, we are happy to sit with you and discuss what medical conditions you have and figure out the coverage that is right for you.
So let's talk about somebody that has cancer. And when they fill out the medical questionnaire, you're saying that everybody should be able to qualify for up to $50,000 of coverage maximum. Is there any restriction on the contract? If you've got somebody, applied today and was given coverage and they have cancer, and that their situation isn't positive, how can you provide coverage for somebody that's not in good health?
Sure, that's a great question. So with our cancer, we do have a few questions on our application. And basically in our guaranteed acceptance plan, we're looking at somebody who's had metastatic cancer, which typically metastatic cancer means that it has spread from one organ to another. Lots of times you'll see that, for example, in a gentleman, if they've had prostate cancer and they've been gone through surgery to remove the prostate, and the surgeon has said it has spread to the lymph nodes, that would be considered metastatic because it's a spreading cancer. So if you have had more than one occurrence of cancer, again, those situations where somebody has got metastatic or more than one occurrence, we would qualify them for up to $50,000 of coverage. And that actually comes with a 2-year deferral. So because it's a higher risk and the traditional carriers won't cover somebody like that, what we do is we understand that risk and it's already underwritten into our premiums and our products. So we actually offer the coverage on a 2-year deferral. So basically meaning if the client were to pass away from the cancer or any other natural cause in the first 2 years, then the death benefit is limited to a return of premium. If the client passes away due to an accidental death and it's deemed to be an accident by the coroner's report, then it's full coverage from day one. And the cancer questions continue on through the application like that. If you've got an individual who has gone through breast cancer and it wasn't metastatic, it didn't spread anywhere else, and they've gone through breast cancer, but they're currently taking tamoxifen, which would be a chemo pill, or going through chemo or radiation, because they're certainly going through that today, the risk factor then that we would allow them to get is in our deferred category where they can go up to $75,000 of permanent coverage. Again, if they passed away in the first 2 years from the cancer or any other natural cause, then the beneficiary would receive the return of premiums plus 3% interest. If they died by accident, it's full coverage from day one. The next category they go to for cancer is we do ask about a few aggressive forms of cancer in the next category of our application. And basically, if your cancer is not listed there, and there's a few of them that we don't list there, then the client would qualify for $350,000 of term insurance or permanent with a 1-year deferral. So if they passed away in the first 12 months from the cancer, the death benefit is a return of premium plus 3% interest. If they passed away in the second year, we would pay out half of the face amount. Again, accidental death is full coverage from day one. And then most of our cancers, if an individual has been out of treatment and been in remission for at least 12 months or longer, would qualify for our full coverage from day one, up to $500,000 of term coverage or permanent, or they can combine both of them. So it really, the risk that the insurance company is taking on is we do ask different questions through different sections of the application.
And depending on the severity of the cancer, you can always get something, even if it's return of premium in the first 2 years, you can always get something.
Yes.
But if, a lot of people think that you need to be clean for 5 years,
And
but
you
you're
don't.
saying 1 year,
Yep.
1 year, you can actually qualify for coverage. It's going to be deferred in the first year. That if you die in the first year, you get return of premium, or your family gets return of premium. But if you live longer than 1 year, you have full coverage. Almost, but half coverage in the second year. And
Exactly.
then after that, you've got full coverage.
Yeah, because we do specify there's certain cancers that we talk about in section C of our application that really asks things like, in the last 3 years, have you had lung cancer, colon cancer, breast, cervical, uterine, malignant melanoma, or leukemia, which would include lymphoma and multiple myeloma. So things like thyroid cancer, for example, we don't ask about that in section C. So as long as your client has been deemed to be in remission for 12 months, then they could go all the way through to our full coverage from day one, which offers $500,000 of insurance.
So we've talked a fair bit about cancer and recognizing there's a whole range and continuum of different forms of cancer. But even in the most extreme situations, you can qualify for coverage, even if you pass away in the first 2 years, it's simply a return of premium to your family. And then as the cancer becomes less severe, you can get better coverage. Are there any other medical conditions that you see just as much as you see cancer, or almost as much, where you can enlighten us as far as the coverage availability?
Sure. I think in today's marketplace, Rick, we're seeing a lot more of things like depression, anxiety, Crohn's and colitis. So a lot of those conditions that I've just listed right there, we don't ask about on our application. So it really would be, again, if they're all truthful, no questions, then typically those conditions, we would qualify our clients for up to $500,000.
So that's interesting. So I
Mhm.
do know that some of the major carriers would maybe do a postponement or a rating for people that have some form of depression. You're saying that most likely they would be covered with the Canada Protection Plan coverage.
Yes, we do ask about bipolar, schizophrenia, and psychosis.
Right.
So as long as your client has not been diagnosed with one of those three, and it has been diagnosed as depression, then yes, we can go all the way up to $500,000, full coverage from day one with no waiting period.
Now, are there other conditions besides medical, other circumstances beside medical that would encourage somebody to seek out the form of coverage that Canada Protection Plan offers?
Yes, there are. We actually don't have questions regarding hazardous occupations. So again, if you've got somebody who is working in the mining industry, so a lot of the traditional carriers will ask for additional supplemental questionnaires. So we don't have a question regarding occupation on our application. If you've got individuals who have had financial difficulties, so they've declared bankruptcy or have some sort of financial issues, again, we don't ask about that. If you've got clients that are off on disability or ODSP, we don't ask about that either. Hazardous sports would be another one. So hazardous sports, again, we do have one question regarding hazardous sports. And again, you can go all the way up to $500,000, full coverage from day one without, a supplemental questionnaire on a particular hazardous sport.
So you're right. The traditional companies, or sorry, not the traditional companies, the larger companies in Canada have questionnaires. They have occupational questionnaires. They have hazardous sport questionnaires. They also have foreign travel questionnaires. Is foreign travel something that somebody that does a lot of foreign travel, they're going to maybe some countries that wouldn't be on the favored list by the Canadian government? Is this another opportunity for people to get coverage through Canada Protection Plan?
It is. So right now during our COVID environment, we're limiting our travel to our deferred elite section. So basically the client can apply for up to $350,000 of term or perm. And that's our product that has, if they pass away of natural causes in the first 12 months, the death benefit is limited to a return of premium plus 3%. If they pass away of natural causes in the second year, we would pay out half of the face amount. Now, it's full coverage from day one if they died by an accident. When we are outside of our COVID environment, our travel restriction is quite lenient, because what it is 12 weeks of consecutive travel. So for example, if somebody was taking a trip to Turkey and they went for 10 weeks and then they came home and they were home, let's say for a couple of days, give them time to unpack and say hello to the family, and they got on an airplane and they were gone again. As long as that travel is not longer than 12 consecutive weeks, they can apply all the way up to $750,000 of coverage with us in a term 20 or a term 30, full coverage from day one. Or if they're looking for something more permanent, we can go all the way up to $500,000.
So with COVID, there has been some restrictions put on people's travel then from an underwriting point of view.
There has, yes.
So does it depend where they've been? Does it depend on the frequency of where they've been?
So right now with COVID, with us in particular, we are just limiting it to $350,000. Yeah, and once we're outside of our COVID environment and all the travel bans have been lifted, then they're fine to apply for, like I said, the full coverage from day one.
So what is the travel question on your application then?
Yeah, so we actually only have one travel question. It basically says, do you plan to travel outside North America, the Caribbean, the United Kingdom, or the EU for more than 12 consecutive weeks in the next 12 months?
Okay. What about looking back for the previous 12 months?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, and of course, truck drivers going back and forth to the United States, they would be, we don't limit them to the deferred elite on that.
Now, another area, and it relates to mental wellness as well, is substance abuse, and recognize we have challenges with opiates in Canada, and we have all sorts of issues around illicit drug use, and cocaine being one, and a very expensive drug that some people can get trapped into. But ultimately, people may go down that path, but ultimately they can clean themselves up. What is your position of your company with regard to people that have a history of drug use?
Great question. So we actually cover individuals with a history of drug use. So again, that would fall back under the guaranteed acceptance. So if you've got an individual who's actually used any sort of hardcore drugs in the last 12 months, we do limit those individuals again to our guaranteed acceptance. So you can get a permanent plan for up to $50,000. And that's our plan that has the 2-year deferral. So again, if they were to die in the first 2 years from any natural cause, the death benefit is limited to a return of premium. Once they've been clean for 12 months and there is no drug use, we actually go to another section on our application, and that's our deferred elite section. So what we're looking for there is drug use that's been greater than 12 months, but less than 3 years. So in that particular section, that one goes up to $350,000 term insurance or permanent. And that's the one where the client applies. And if they were to pass away from any natural cause in the first 12 months, the death benefit is a return of premium plus 3% interest. If they were to pass away from a natural cause in the second year, we pay out half of the face amount. It's full coverage from day one for accidental death. Now, after 5 years without any relapse, they can apply for our Express Elite or our Simplified Elite. Our Simplified Elite provides full coverage from day one up to $500,000, and it comes in term 10, term 20, and term 25, as well as a T100 or 20 pay or a life pay. If they're looking for a little bit more coverage again, and it's been greater than 5 years without a relapse, they can go up to $750,000 with our Express Elite in a term 20 or 30.
But the bottom line from our conversation here is that people should always apply. If they've been turned down or rated highly, maybe by one of the bigger companies, you can look at Canada Protection Plan, a Forester's Financial Company, as an alternative, and you know that you can get at least some form of insurance, and you may be surprised about how much you can get in the type when you actually go through the process.
Exactly. The bottom line is that we have coverage for every Canadian, and we're here to help and happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
Well, Melanie, thank you very much. This has been most insightful, and I'm sure that a lot of people are going to find value from our conversation today, because a lot of people would assume, because of their personal circumstances are such, that they cannot get life insurance. And we're finding out from you today, you've enlightened us, that everybody can get life insurance of some form, and you may be able to get a better form than you might have thought originally. And so having access, I know as an advisor, having access to CPP for my clients that are in those situations is very comforting, knowing that I can at least get some coverage for my clients in those situations. So Melanie, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Melanie McCallum of Canada Protection Plan, of Forester's Financial Company. I want to thank all of you for tuning in and listening or watching the podcast. And please, if you have any suggestions for other topics you would like me to cover and other people you'd like me to interview, please let me know. Thanks for tuning in to Merit Money Podcast. Thanks again to Melanie. Remember to stay positive and test negative.